What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise post-game show. The Blazers have their best defensive performance of the entire year and blow the doors off the Sacramento Kings with their second straight blowout win, a final score of 125 for the Blazers and 99 for the Sacramento Kings. This is the type of game I was hoping for going into tonight, the second game in a row where we can kind of relax, sit back, enjoy some of the end of the bench guys in the fourth quarter, and just have a full, complete game. This is the first time this season Portland has put together two complete games. This was against a better team than it was during the first blowout. They blew out the Minnesota Timberwolves a couple days ago. We didn't have much to react to from that game. Minnesota's such a bad team. But tonight they beat a Sacramento Kings team that had an identical record going into this game. They were 4-4. They've been a bit inconsistent, but they've been playing solid basketball, so to say. They didn't play solid basketball tonight. The Blazers were the team that did so, and they had a very good performance, led by Mccollum, who finished with 37 points. We'll get into everything about this game. We'll give some takeaways. Maybe there might be a little bit more long-term optimism now that the Blazers put together two games in a row instead of one. I don't know. We'll touch on all of that, and if the Blazers might be turning a little bit of a corner here. The Blazers have a lot of easy games coming up, so this is what they need to do in those games. They played. I was very satisfied with what happened tonight. So, Eric, how's your day going? What's your main takeaways? How are you feeling about this one?
I'm feeling like hopefully the Chicago and game coming after that Golden State loss as well was a bit of a wake-up call for this team. I still am telling myself I'm not going to be fooled until they start consistently playing well for a longer stretch than two games. But yeah, it's hard to nitpick or be upset about any particular things the last two games.
Yeah, I mean, this team was impressive defensively tonight. They didn't do a whole lot differently, but overall, just the off-ball defense, mainly with the starting lineup. The bench didn't really outscore the Kings when they were on the floor, but if you look at the starting lineup, pretty much everybody is around a plus 30. It was insane. The starting lineup thoroughly outplayed theirs, and Derrick Jones Jr., Robert Covington, and Yusuf Nurkic, I thought all played really, really good defense today. Nurkic has kind of been knocked a bit, but I think he's looked a lot better the past couple games, especially on the defensive end. We can touch on that more when we go to his individual recap, but overall, I thought the defensive effort the Blazers put forth tonight was very solid, was much better than some games we've seen earlier this season. Their off-ball defense, for the most part, with the starting lineup, was really, really good. You saw Nurkic randomly trap a screen. I don't even know if that was a plan, but it turned into an easy bucket for Mccollum the other way. I want to see more of that. It looked like they were showing the big up a little bit more than usual, at least when Nurkic was in the game. He seemed to be playing up a lot closer to the point of the screen from what I saw. What are your thoughts on that?
To be fair, I mean, last game, Russell's not a great three-point shooter, and tonight De'Aaron Fox isn't the greatest three-point shooter either. Mm-hmm. He looks to get more towards the basket. So it's not necessarily the wrong game plan against those kind of guys unless they start hitting like crazy or getting downhill on our drop big coverage. So they were in different spots tonight, but yeah, it's those type of teams are a lot better for our defense than most of the other teams we struggle with. But I'm glad we took care of business. That's all that matters.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, this, I've never, and I've had to say this multiple times, I've never said the team shouldn't drop the big necessarily, right? Some teams you go up against, and it's the right thing to drop the big. It just depends on the situation itself. It depends on the other team's strengths. It depends on the personnel we have in the game. All I've asked for is for our defense and especially just the schemes we run. I just want us to be more situationally adaptable and run the right defense at the right times, So a lot of my criticisms earlier in this season were based on us not adjusting when a team is picking apart our drop scheme, or, if we're just bringing the big up but not enough and only soft showing. And I want us, when we're our defense isn't working, to adjust and adjust quicker than we have. But a night like tonight, where our game plan coming in, the type of defense we ran, it was working. There's no reason to switch anything up. It worked phenomenally tonight. Part of that was due to us playing active in the passing lanes. Our off-ball defense was very solid, mainly from Nurkic, Covington, and Jones. But beyond that, this was the right team to kind of fall back into the type of defense we were running. So completely happy with our defensive performance this game. I thought you had a lot of good individual efforts. I thought we were on a string more than usual. I just thought overall this was the most impressive defensive game. Let me give Near012 a shout out for the $5 donation really quick. He says, I can't remember even having 2 games in one season where Dame got to sit the whole fourth quarter. Yeah, it's nice that starters got to rest and that we got 2 straight blowouts. So what were your thoughts on what I was saying about the defense?
See, this is why I want them to throw that hard trap out there more often, because teams expect us to be in the drop coverage. So that's why you see last game when we do it, it leads to D'Angelo Russell having to pick up his dribble and calling a timeout 8 seconds into the half. And then tonight it leads to CJ getting a steal and easy 2, because they get completely off guard when that happens. And this is why you don't just like hard trap picks every time either, because eventually teams will figure that out and burn you with a 4-on-3 on the other end. And that's what we've talked about for years, as Stott's not adjusting to that or seemingly coming up with a game plan to do that. But most teams would, in fact, like figure that out after a while. So I want to see a mixture of both. Like sometimes it's, even if you're playing a good shooter, if you drop, like he won't be expecting you to drop. So like it might work because he's like not thinking off the screen that he's going to get an open shot right away. So he might not be ready to shoot, giving enough of a second for the guy going through the screen to recover. So yeah, just unpredictability is the key. And the more you throw that in, it can't just be once a game to get the defense off guard. It's got to be multiple times throughout the game. And you don't even have to hard trap like that. Sometimes you can just fake like you're hard trapping and then recover back to your man real quick and stuff. And I said this all last year, and you're on the same page as me. When you're really bad at defense like we were last year and so far this season, you want to force turnovers or be super aggressive. And it doesn't make sense to play passive defense and not be aggressive when you're getting burnt on defense. Like that's like the worst thing you can do, because you're just letting them get whatever shot you want and then being like, oh, they just made shots. Like, what are we going to do? Well, like, no, why don't you just like sell out to take away the 3 or trap hard, and if they score, what does it matter? Because you're giving up buckets whether you trap or not. So at least sometimes you could get a steal like CJ got tonight and get an easy 2 on the offensive end, and that does lead to transition points, which helps your offensive efficiency and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to see more of it. I'm happy that you're starting to see it like integrated. Since it's just like one time though, I'm kind of feeling like a play we're going to talk about on offense later, that it's more just the spontaneous thing that an individual is doing, like Nurk is choosing to do that.
Well, I have a theory on that. So actually, I saw it twice. One was with Cantor in the game, and they were in the same spots of the floor. It was on that far sideline. It seemed like the big either decided to trap on his own, or maybe it's something that they've been told that they have available to them. But it was when the ball handler had a screen. The sideline was to his left, and he had a screen being set on the left and was dribbling left towards the sideline, which is a great place to trap. So I don't know if that was something where they were trapping because of the spot it was on the floor specifically, but when Nurkic got that steal, it was in the same spot that I noticed that Cantor ended up trapping. The play that Cantor ended up trapping, the problem was it wasn't a hard enough trap. That's the thing. You got to trap hard if you're going to trap. So the ball handler was able to throw a pass in between the 2 defenders of that trap to Whiteside, who I think scored in the middle of the paint. But overall, I like to see it kind of thrown in there here and there, as you said, just to keep teams off balance a little bit, maybe force turnovers. I mean, that Nurkic trap got us 2 points. Not only did it, like, the best offensive possessions aren't just the ones where you get a stop. It's ones where you get a stop and it helps you get an easy bucket the other way, right? So that steal from Nurkic that turned into a CJ lay-in, that is the best possible outcome from a defensive possession. You don't really get much of that when you drop the big. When you throw a trap out there, plays like that happen. And the one time we trapped, or one of the 2 times we trapped, it turned into easy 2 points the other way. You know what I mean? So that's why I want to see more of it, especially in areas of the floor where it's really hard to exploit the trap, and it's against the sideline is a great place to trap. You're kind of trapped with the sideline as well as the 2 defenders. And if a team isn't like set up to deal with that because they haven't really seen it and you just throw it in there and they're not ready, they're not going to be able to really pick it apart quite so well. Even if they get the ball out of the trap, they might not be in position to really exploit it, and we can recover back and completely fine and shut things down while giving ourselves a chance to maybe get a turnover or force a bad pass or make them call a timeout like we did against Minnesota. So overall, I like sprinkling in the little stuff. Let me give shout outs to 2 donations here. We got Apple's $3 donation. He says, excellent defense, especially on Buddy Hield. I thought we defended Buddy Hield pretty well, especially in the pick and roll. We did a solid job fighting through screens, especially when he was the ball handler. He wasn't really able to get space going off them, which is what we normally give up when we drop the big. So I thought that was definitely part of it, was us fighting through screens well. And then shout out Andrew Miller for the $5 donation. He says, these 2 games would be down to the wire last year. So nice to see Portland dominate 2 games. They should dominate and not waste a bunch of energy. I 100% agree. We're the far more talented team. And the far more talented team, if they play the right brand of basketball, should be able to win pretty handily. So it was nice to see that the past couple games.
Yeah, and just to go back to your point about the 2 points. So obviously Sacramento's a terrible defensive team, so our offense didn't necessarily need those 2 points. Same with Minnesota. They were last, I think, in defense, especially without Cat. So, but like in the playoffs or against elite teams, think of how valuable or how much that could change a game, getting not only a stop on defense, but an easy basket and not having to make a tough shot like CJ having to break down like 3 guys and score off a mid-range jump shot or something. Instead, he's getting going. And then you saw like how that led to him having a very, very good game tonight. Little stuff like that can make a huge difference against good teams. So it's not just like it might not matter against the team. Like it probably didn't matter tonight necessarily or change the game, the outcome or anything, but that can absolutely in a close game be the difference between winning a game or losing a game.
Yeah. And here's the thing, man, if the Blazers play solid defense and 2 of Nurkic, Lillard, and McCollum play well, they are a very hard team to beat, right? Because I thought Nurkic had a really good game today. I thought, of course, CJ dropping 37 had a really good game today. Nobody else really played all that well individually. You know, I mean, you had a bunch of guys play, all right games, but nobody else really wowed you. But we still end up winning by 26 because our defense was on point. Now, some of it was them missing open shots from 3. Some of it was us doing a good job contesting. It was a pretty mixed bag. But I would say us defending the 3-point line was better than a lot of the bad performances we've seen earlier this season. You're talking about a Kings team that just shot 27% from 3 against us. Only 40% from the field, and didn't score 100 points. When was the last time we held a team under 100 points? Didn't
we hold the Lakers under them?
No, the Lakers had 107, game 1 of the playoffs?
In the playoffs, yeah. That was probably last time. I was thinking for some reason.
No, that score was like 115, 108, the game earlier this year.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is the Blazers have so much firepower. It's like looking at things offensively, like only 1 player wowed you scoring wise. Nurkic played well, but he, played well all around game. He only had 10 points. Only 1 player wowed you scoring wise. That was CJ, but we still put up 125 on the board. That's what's crazy about that, is we still put up 125 points. So that's the thing. If we hold teams under to 100, I feel like we're just about unbeatable because of how much offensive, talent we have, and especially if we move the ball, which I thought we did a decent job moving the ball tonight. I like the way our offense functioned and flowed and some of the pace we played with, but like overall, it just comes down to this team, if it can play defense, is going to be a good team because you have the offensive talent. Even if you don't move the ball, you still got guys that can step up and put the team on their backs. So it was nice to see them come out and defend the way they did.
Yeah, that's the game I was thinking of, Landon. Thanks. The first Golden State game, we held them to 98.
Did we?
Yeah.
And look, we won by 25.
Yeah.
so yeah, that's the thing.
But that proves your point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we hold teams under 100, we're not going to lose. Especially lottery caliber fringe playoff teams. I just want to look at our schedule and see, like, we scored over 100 every game this year.
Yeah. Here's the thing: we're not expecting the defense to be that good every game, but like if you're consistently holding them in the lower hundreds as well, and not giving up those big 30-point quarters and stuff like that, I think, like you said, we'll be fine pretty much every game.
Yeah, I mean, even just holding teams under 110, we are. I'm just counting here. We're 3-0 when we hold teams under 110 points. You know what I mean? We have. I mean, I'm just trying to like eyeball this based off the schedule, but we generally are able to get at least 110 on the board. You know what I mean? It just comes down to playing good defense. You have a bunch of offensive talent here. You have guys that can go off. Dame can have a cold shooting night, and we can still pour in 125. CJ can have a whole cold scoring night, and if Dame steps up, we can still pour in 125. Even if both those guys struggle, I still feel like we have enough there, and if the ball's moving and like, both those guys are distributing a little bit, we can still put up 115, 120 points. Like, we have talent on this roster. So it just comes down to holding teams under 110 and preferably keeping teams in the double digits, not letting them reach triple digits. Like, it's legitimately that simple on the surface. Now, obviously, there's a lot that goes into holding teams to less than 110 points, but that's really like the main thing for this team. This team you can roll the ball out there and not run much, and this team should be able to score at an okay rate. With the talent that they have. It comes down to how is this defense defending, and it's nice to see them put together a performance like this on that end of the floor. Shout out to Sean Paul, $5 donation. He said, could this be the best year for CJ and Dame to be All-Stars, and you two should be on TV? You know your stuff for sure. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, CJ's playing at an All-Star level right now. If he keeps this up, there's no way he's not an All-Star, especially if the Portland Trailblazers are a winning team.
And Dame will also probably just get on reputation. So, yeah, I mean, there's a good chance they could both be All-Stars this year.
Too bad there's no game.
There's no actual game, but they're still going to announce All-Stars and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see CJ in an All-Star game because, like, he has the type of game that, you could just...
Would be fun.
In a game without much defense, he could really... like break some people down, but other than that, it would just be cool to see them both on the team, or to have someone other than Dame, step up enough to be worthy of an All-Star appearance.
Yep, 100%. So, I mean, I want to see us like hold a team under 100 because we like randomly hedge the screen, and that's the right call. That's what I'm kind of waiting for against a team where like they would abuse us dropping the big. I want to see Stotts come out and trap and hedge the big and play the right defensive scheme that's different than what he's used to and comfortable with. And I want to see us win a game that way. That's kind of like the next step, because it's nice to have good defensive performances like this, but just playing devil's advocate here, when you go up against a team that does really well against the type of scheme we ran against the Timberwolves and the Kings, what then? What's the answer then? Is it, we don't adjust, and a team like the Clippers puts 130 on the board against us, and we lose against those types of teams? We have to figure out how to defend teams that do well against what we're comfortable running defensively, right? So, like, I'm encouraged, and I like the way we play defense tonight, but that's like the next thing is, okay, what about teams that are good? What about teams that exploit drop scheme well? What then?
We still had a lot of mistakes, off ball and stuff, but I feel like the last two games, the overall focus level has been a lot better, and there's not quite as many of those mistakes. Maybe with the second unit tonight, didn't play great defensively, but overall, I like to see you can get by just on effort sometimes with defense, even if your schemes are crap. So there's no excuse for this team to have so many lapses off ball. So as long as they cut down on those, I think they'll be all right, even if they had a poor game plan. they could still kind of limit teams in some ways, and that's what's frustrating about the whole personnel thing. Is it's like you have to like have players that want it and stuff, and you have to like get them to buy in as a team to defense and stuff like that. So I like what I've seen that in that regard. At least compared to previous games, it's still not where it needs to be, but as long as it keeps improving to that step and eventually gets there, I think it'll bode well for them against better teams.
Yep, 100% agree. Now, I want to talk about a set that the Blazers ran during this game, a set that I've asked for numerous times, and I'm going to pull up the clipboard. Goodbye, Eric. I'm going to pull up the clipboard here and actually look at this. So this was a play the Blazers ran to get Yusuf Nurkic the ball in a great position to score. You had, I think Dame was just honestly off the ball, and you had CJ bringing it up here. I heard Terry Stotts call timeout play. So it's like, I think it was a play they drew up in the previous timeout, and were like waiting until like a couple possessions in to run it. I want to see this set more. This should be like a set that they run, not just a one-off that they draw in a timeout. They should run this all the time. And this is what they did. I don't even need defenders out here to showcase this. You had CJ McCollum throw the ball to Robert Covington, and it's just a very simple play. He screened away, and Nurkic came middle. And you had Robert Covington passing Nurkic the ball, and he hit a right-hand hook. Very, very simple play, but I feel like oftentimes when we try and get Nurkic the ball, we just walk the ball down and throw it into the post like we do with Melo and Kanter, and then Nurkic has to like back his guy down and try and create from there. A double team might come to him and whatnot. But you literally just have a very simple play where CJ enters the ball to Covington and then screens away for Nurkic. And this is a great play because it gets Nurkic to his right-hand hook. He catches the ball here, even if he has a defender on him, he can catch and shoot that right-hand hook over. So that's the thing, is oftentimes the shooting guard's gonna sag behind CJ and the center's gonna go under. Nurkic is open if the center goes under. If the center goes over, Nurkic can keep curling and catch the ball here and lay it in. So the center, the best thing to do is go under. If he goes under, you get Nurkic the ball here. He has a right-handed hook from 5 feet away. That's a pretty good shot for him. And this is just like, here. That's the type of stuff I want more from our sets. We do so much where we do so much like 3-man weave where CJ dribbles over here, passes it to Dame. Dame like comes over here, hands it off to, I don't know, Rodney Hood or somebody, and then like he passes it to CJ, and then we run a pick and roll. We could just run the pick and roll in the first place, or we run stuff like Dame will be dribbling here, and CJ will run up. Dame will pass CJ the ball. CJ will immediately pass it right back and then run off here and run off a little flare screen and stuff like that. It's so much like perimeter based and a lot of like wasted movement, in my opinion. I've always said offensively we need to mix up our sets more and get stuff like just simple stuff where we pass the ball to the 4 and screen down for Nurkic and get him open rolling off the screen for a little hook shot. That could be a great way to get Nurkic bought into the game and get him going. So I want to see more sets like that. And
also, why not run that same thing for Melo? Because him getting the ball like 5 feet in the middle of the paint like that versus 12 feet out trying to post up, and that's such an easier shot for Melo. He would be so much more efficient because he could just shoot it immediately and probably have space to get that shot off. If not, he could go up strong, or then he could do his little fade away, and it's only from 8 feet instead of 15 feet or whatever. And it's just a great little play. And I saw your tweet that like you learned that play. That's one of the most basic plays in basketball. But the thing is, I'm not convinced that was the play, because prior to that, Covington set a down screen in the corner for CJ. I think he had just hit a 3, and they were trying to get him the ball again. So he wasn't open coming off of that, and he kind of ran through. And I think he just, as he was running through, saw Nurk's guy and just kind of screened him, and then he was open. So the fact that we only ran it one time, that it kind of leads me to believe it was just more of a spontaneous thing. But they should definitely look at that and be like, wow, this worked. Let's go back to that at some point.
I don't know. I heard Stotts yell timeout play, so I think it's something they drew up. I think it's something like unique that they drew up at the timeout, because I heard him yell timeout play. But if that's some freelance, that's encouraging too. Just the fact that CJ and Nurkic are on the same page and that worked out. If that worked out freelance, I don't know if that's a negative thing. That's the team doing just a good move of a good job freelancing. But here's the thing, like, you can run good motion off this even if you don't get Nurkic the ball, right? It could be something as simple as this. Nurkic comes off, maybe he's not open, and then Dame running in here and setting a pin down for CJ, and maybe you hit that, right? And then if you hit that, I don't know, Dame after setting the screen can pop out, and then you can have Nurkic screen for Covington, and he can cut here going middle. Just like that type of stuff is what I want to see more of. You have interior movement, you have cuts to the rim, you have screens in order to get guys shots on the interior. I want to see more of that compared to a lot of the running around the arc type stuff, running around out here, like fine, like that's kind of like a couple of our staple plays involve this perimeter movement. I've always been a proponent of mixing it up a little bit more so that if we're cold and not able to hit threes, we're not constantly catching the ball out here and jacking them. We're potentially getting good shots on the interior, where we're not just selling for threes that we're missing. And we're not just saying, oh, well, we're just missing shots, man. What can we do? No, you can attack the interior and set up sets designed to give you an advantage on the interior and hopefully get you shots around the rim.
And I wish we do that with Dame and not just CJ, like do it with both of them. And when different guys are guarding them, so they're not like prepared for it. Because if they have the same guy guarding them each time. But one thing they could do also is the exact same play, only instead of CJ setting the pick, it's Nurk setting a pick and CJ curls around it and goes up to the top. And then Nurk can just seal his guy if he tries to play the pass to CJ, and then you could dump it like a bounce pass towards the rim, and Nurk would be open there. Or if they switch, then Nurk obviously has the CJ's defender on him in the post, which is a mismatch. And then or you could pass it to CJ and he could break down the big man. Or if they don't play it right, CJ's open for a three. So yeah, there's just so many variations you can do off of that, and that's why. Like, it just baffles me that we don't do simple little things like that.
Yeah,
more often, at least.
Yeah, so like I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah, just off this play, I like this pin down just because Nurkic, it's hard to defend that and take away that right-handed hook, right? Mm-hmm. But say they do, you could have CJ run up here, and then you could have, after Dame sets the screen, you could have him come down, and then Nurkic sets the screen here, and Dame curls maybe here, and then Nurkic tries to seal and duck in, or something like that. Is that kind of what you were thinking of?
No, I'm talking about putting Dame in the corner with the small forward and just so have CJ back where he started.
Yeah.
So like he's going to set the pick, but instead of picking, Nurk picks him as he curls around. If that makes sense. Because this is what I think they were going to do initially. So CJ
picks him what, at the elbow?
He goes all the way around like he's clearing the side, but instead like Nurk like on the basket side. Mm. And then he curls around that and Nurk picks his guy. If his guy trails him or goes with him, then CJ pops up to the top of the key.
Yeah, I wish there was a way we could set you up with your own clipboard because I'm very confused right now. But basically, there's a lot of cool things that they could do just off that one wrinkle, and I wish they made it more of a part of their offense. Right? We got into a little deep into the clipboard, but but. Overall, like I like that set just because it got Nurkic an easy shot, and I feel like we need to do a better job utilizing Derrick Jones Jr. as a cutter, and we can throw some wrinkles in and just get guys moving off the ball where they're catching the ball in a position of strength. It could be Derrick Jones Jr. face cutting, going downhill towards the rim where he can potentially dunk on somebody. It could be Yusuf Nurkic, the set they ran, him getting a pin down and curling middle to his right-handed hook. It could be Dame and CJ mixed into that, but them maybe curling off screens on the three-point line where they can catch and shoot and maybe attack downhill. Like a lot of our offense is perimeter based. I would love to see more sets like that one set they ran where you just set a pin down for Nurkic, he comes middle, gets right-handed 5-foot hook, right? And then if that's not there, then maybe you freelance a little bit, and if you can't get something out of that, then you isolate or run pick and roll. I think our offense would be very deadly if we just utilized a little bit more stuff like that, where it's not like we're relying on somebody to catch and shoot and hit threes on the perimeter, or catch on the perimeter and then create off the dribble. Because a lot of our offense is just catch on the perimeter, create off the dribble, or shoot threes. So, anyway, let me thank a donation. Andrew Miller, $5 donation. Appreciate it, man. He says, how about the backdoor Nurk to Derek? That was sick. Keep up the good work, guys. Yeah, backdoor cuts, man. We saw a lot of them in this game. The team needs to do it, especially the guards. A lot of defenders overplay the guards, and the guards have done a decent job of cutting backdoor this year. And that's what I said last year is I didn't think we did a good enough job cutting last year. Cutting off the ball, cutting backdoor, I don't think we did a good enough job of moving off the ball, and especially when we got overplayed. Part of that is, having Hassan Whiteside instead of Yusuf Nurkic. Hassan Whiteside isn't the passer that Nurkic is, but I think we did a good job of exploiting some of that. Dame has gotten some easy buckets that way this year, so is CJ. So just overall, like, that's what I'm looking for offensively. I'm looking for ball movement, I'm looking for productive player movement that gets us easy shots on the inside, right? Because we can get threes up whenever we want. Even if they're contested off the dribble fading away, we can get those threes up, and if a guy's on, we can hit some of those shots. But I want to see that mixed in more with just us trying to attack the interior and get good shots in there.
Yep, completely agree.
Shout out Westbrick, $2 donor. He says chat wants you to show off the robe tour. It's not a robe. It's it's not a robe, but this like hair is like, I'm gonna go grab some gel because my gel is failing me right now. But yeah, so give me a sec.
Oh yeah, see, it's a dad sweater. Nice. It has buttons. I don't think you can consider that a robe. Sorry, guys. All right. Yeah, Tori going classy tonight, getting the gel.
Yeah. That there was like a hair that was like sitting in front of my forehead, and I kept looking at it, and it was kind of triggering me. So now I'm good. Now I'm good to go. But yeah, overall, offensively, I thought they moved the ball well. They cut pretty well. That set was nice to see. You had Derek Jones Jr. getting a couple dunks. I still want to see him utilized more as a cutter. But overall, there's some signs of improvement.
I feel like Derek Jones Jr. is trying to get too high on some of his dunks because he's missing a lot. I feel like if he went more at the rim instead of above the rim, he could finish those a lot easier. Because
I just think it's fluky. Man. Honestly, it might be not necessarily that he gets too high, that he tries to dunk too hard, man. He tries to make a statement, like. And I love that. Cool, you know what I mean? Like, normally he finishes those. He's missed a couple dunks this year. I think it's a little bit of a fluke, but he almost put Marvin Bagley. I almost said Bagley. He almost put Marvin Bagley on a poster.
Yep. Another $2 donation from Westbrook.
He says, "You've never disappointed so many people so fast. I'm so confused. What would be disappointing?" Did y'all really think I was wearing a robe?
They thought Robe Tory just hit different, according to Reese. But yeah, they were hoping you just own the robe tonight.
I have a white robe that was like a senior gift in high school. We had this road trip, like 3-day road trip, and there was these like really nice robes in the hotels for all of us that we could wear, and everybody wore them across like town, dude. Like everybody wore them like everywhere across the hotel. There's multiple teams there, and it became this thing where like every team would just wear them everywhere. So then like we got gifted like the same robes with like our high school emblem on them as like a senior gift.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if you, I don't know, chat has to earn that if I'm gonna actually wear a robe for a post game show. But
that could be like your thing. What you're known for.
Yeah.
It's like robe. They're saying Robe Tory is greater than Hoodie Mello.
Robe Tory, hell yeah, bro. I don't know. I gotta like. It has to be for something, though. I'm not just going to wear it just for the hell of it. All right? It has to be for something. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll come up with something. I don't know. But chat has to earn that. Honestly, though, chat's been, like, hella supportive this year. So, they've probably already earned it. But yeah, here I am acting like me in a robe is worth a whole lot. Oh my goodness. Yeah, if we
Gotta give the people what they want, Tori. Come on.
next time we win a game by 30 and by 25, I don't know. I'll figure it out, or I'll surprise you guys. We'll see. At some point this year, I'll
5-game win streak. Someone suggests that's a good one.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely don't want to see Eric in a robe though. So, yeah, because he's showing off his Uprise hoodie. I preferred that. Instead. But yeah, I don't know. Like, one of my New Year's goals this year was to like dress differently. So that's just the start.
Oh,
the start of that evolution. Yeah.
You're gonna dress all nice on streams, huh?
Just in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah.
So, because I dress like bro, I'm one of those guys that's like basketball shorts in the winter. But I definitely
look good, feel good, right?
Hey, my 21 goals for 2021, I posted that on my Twitter account's pin. That was one of them. So I'm just just chasing goals, right? That's life. But yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, @ToryJonesYT is my handle. @HoopsJock is Eric's handle. @Blazers Uprise YT is the channel's handle. All three of those links should be in the description below. Yeah, so you got anything else team-wise to touch on here? Do you want to just hop into the players?
Not really anything particular. Just I like 26 assists. I still wish it was a little more, but compared to normal, that's really good. So I'll take that every time. And then only 8 turnovers tonight, I believe, which 26 assists, 8 turnovers will win you almost every game if you're playing that well.
Yep, 100% agree. The team has actually done a decent job taking care of the ball this year. I mean, it helps when you don't get that many assists, but
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see like our assist to turnover ratio compared to other teams. I don't know. Maybe there's somewhere. Reese is kind of becoming a stat head, so Reese, maybe you can find that for us. That would be kind of interesting to look at. But yeah, overall, good win. I like the way they played tonight. I want to see them continue to improve, and if the situation calls for it, like as I said, the next step is what happens if a team starts to pick apart our defensive scheme. I want to see Stotts adjust more, and this game doesn't give me necessarily any more confidence that's going to happen because we didn't have to adjust. We were able to run what we were comfortable with, and it was working, right? Which is, of course, it's nice to see, but when it comes to the coaching of this defense, I want to see more adjustability, adaptability, running the right scheme at the right time, and it's going like this isn't giving me any more confidence for that necessarily. So that's kind of the next step in terms of what I want to see on the defensive end.
Yeah, and it's I mean, we know when it's working, it's fine. The problem has always been when it's not working, what do we do to fix that within a game? So I'm interested to see the first time we face adversity. I mean, it'd be great if we never did again and we won every game by 30, but I want to see next time we play a team that has someone like Steph Curry was doing to us going off for like 30 points and a half or something, what we do in the second half to change it up. And until I see us consistently be able to switch and take someone out of a game that's killing us, I'm not going to get too excited about it. But it's definitely better than the alternative.
Yep, 100% agree. Let's jump into the individual players. Let's start off with CJ McCollum. Let me put his graphic up here and make sure I don't put the wrong game. All right, I'm going to catch that before I do it on this one. Here we go. We got CJ McCollum dropping 37 points tonight, 3 assists, 13 for 22 from the field, 6 for 11 from the three-point line, 7 for 11 from inside the arc. It's nice to see him shoot efficiently from both outside the arc and inside the arc. That was very nice to see. He also knocked down 5 free throws. He got to the line 5 times, which doesn't seem like a lot, but for CJ, that's a good mark in a game. If he can get to the line a little bit more, that's just going to make him a more efficient scorer and just a harder guy to deal with. He's never been a guy that's really gotten to the line. Last year, he only shot 2.5 free throws a game. This year, he's shooting 3.5, so a little bit of an uptick. So 5 free throws in a game, I like that. I want to see him get to the line a little bit more. But overall, he's been on fire to start this season. He was averaging 26.8 points per game entering into this game. That might be up to 28 points per game after this one through 9 games, getting 28 points per game from CJ, as well as 5 assists. Yeah, you take that in a heartbeat. He's been on fire from 3 this year. He was shooting 43% from 3 going into this game. 6 for 11 is only going to help that. He's been an efficient player so far this year. From the field, he's shooting 46%, and that's only going to benefit from a night where he goes 13 for 22. So offensively, he has been... This stretch, obviously, like he's had hot stretches before where he's kind of done this, but if he keeps this up for an entire season, it's going to be not only his best season, it's going to be his best offensive season by far. Like, by far. And we're talking about a guy who hasn't really improved offensively the past 3 seasons or so, the past 4 seasons or so. He hasn't really improved. He hasn't really stepped up. He hasn't really made any notable gains on that end. And it got kind of frustrating because, you wanted to see him improve a little bit. You look at Dame, and it's like he improves every year. And Dame has struggled a little bit, but I think he's fine. We'll touch on him in a sec. You just want to see improvement. So it's nice, at least so far, to see notable improvement, not only in his scoring ability and his efficiency, but also his playmaking as well.
Yeah, CJ has been great. Another great game from him tonight. I don't mind him forcing a few shots when he's on fire, and obviously when they go in, they're fine. It'll be interesting to see once he has like a couple bad games, because no one can keep up this hot of shooting the entire season. He's doing stuff 3-point wise that only Steph Curry's done in his career, or in the history of the NBA. So like, I expect him to struggle at some point. The hope is that now that he's distributing a little better, that on the nights he struggles, maybe he gets more people involved instead of shoot us out of a game. But yeah, I can't complain really about anything. I mean, he's played decent defense too. I mean, he still isn't the greatest off-ball defender, but I just really like the way he's playing this year.
Yep, 100% agree. Would still like to see him grow a little bit more on the defensive end. But,
yeah, of course. Yeah,
but like that's why we brought in defenders to help counter that. And CJ, he's gonna make up for it with his offense. And this is also like what I'm seeing from CJ, man. Remember all the people that wanted to trade him for Aaron Gordon? You remember,
and Terrence Ross. Yeah.
You remember the article that Dan Marang had that said the Blazers had to trade CJ McCollum even if they couldn't get a good trade for him?
Yep.
Yeah. LOL. Right? Because, dude, the CJ McCollum stuff this offseason about how they should trade him for Aaron Gordon. Like, Tobias Harris is playing well, so, like, I can't really, like, talk too much on that. But, man, like... People were too hard on CJ McCollum this offseason. They've kind of I felt like Blazer fans have been in general a little bit too hard on CJ McCollum and have begun to underrate him. You're not seeing that CJ McCollum hate right now. You're not seeing trade him for Ben Simmons or trade him for Aaron Gordon, which is just a disgusting idea that I can't believe people really hopped on board with. And Aaron Gordon is like actually shooting the ball decently this year. But you're talking about trading a guy who right now is getting you 28 and 5 for a guy who's going to get you 14 points per game and 2 assists. Yeah. I mean, CJ McCollum is a star-level player. I've always said we can't downgrade our star-level talent. It's hard to get star-level talent. It's hard to get a guy that can do what he does, man. It's hard to get a guy who can give you 37 points, in 29 minutes. That's the other key, is he only played 29 minutes, right? You give him an extra 7 minutes and he plays his usual 36 minutes per game, he might be dropping 50, right? So that's the thing. He did it on low minutes in this game. So that's the thing, man. Like, I've always been pretty much a proponent of keeping CJ. I've always been down to trade him for like a Chris Middleton type, just because I think Chris Middleton is really talented and a bigger player, better defender. But for all the trade suggestions that got thrown out there, Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie and stuff like that, I don't know. It's nice to not hear any of that right now.
Yeah, I mean, we got players like Giles who can't even get minutes in the game.
Yeah, but
So
we need
like,
to trade one star for
for
multiple
like three
players
pieces,
that are
yeah.
all worse when we already have hypothetically decent depth. Yeah, I've never understood that.
Yep. Yeah, CJ. I still want to see Damon CJ on a team that has some better schemes for them to get better shots and utilize better off ball instead of just like taking turns ISOing or pick and roll.
Hmm.
Uh, but I mean, I've always said that I'd rather see that than just trade CJ thinking that can't work and keeping the same coaching staff and all that stuff. So, um, I mean, who knows? Could be wrong. Could be better off with a trade, but the way he's playing this year is kind of putting a lot of that to bed.
You know what's funny is all this James Harden talk, right? And then you look at James Harden through 6 games. James Harden's averaging 27 points per game. After this game, CJ will probably be around 28. James Harden is shooting 38% from the three-point line. CJ McCollum after this game is going to be shooting like 44%, right? From the field, CJ McCollum after tonight is going to be just shooting better than James Harden. The only area in which James Harden has outplayed CJ McCollum this year on the offensive end is just his playmaking, you know? But he's also like the only guy. I mean, you have John Wall now, but you know, he's kind of like the main guy, whereas CJ is the second guy, right? So that's the thing is like, obviously James Harden's a far more talented player, but he's not really thoroughly outplaying CJ. You can make the argument that he's playing better, had a couple more impressive performances or whatnot, but the difference is really not that large just based off the start of the season. Now, I don't expect CJ to necessarily keep this up, while I expect James Harden to keep up his production so far. It's just kind of interesting to compare those two guys, considering how much of a, you know, huge upgrade, humongous upgrade it would have been before the season for a lot of Blazer fans to swap CJ McCollum out for James Harden.
Yeah, and I think all the extra stuff with Harden is a bit much, but I don't know if I can fully compare Harden and CJ. It's just like, I mean, obviously entire game plans are built around Harden, whereas they're more focused on Dame than CJ in most cases when you're playing the Blazers. So if Harden was our second option in the CJ role, I think he would be a lot more efficient than he is currently.
I don't think he's shooting 4%. I don't expect CJ to keep it up. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of context that has to go in that. My whole point is that with how much of a risk, how many additional assets you'd have to give up, the headaches that James Harden provides, you would likely have to pay the repeater tax, you know, and all these risk factors. I said before the season, they're not enough for me to want to trade like CJ McCollum, a bunch of future firsts, because our 2021 first is going to Houston, so we could, you know, sort that out and trade future firsts on top of that, likely unprotected, some young assets, all that, like all the risk factors that went into it. It wasn't enough for me for that upgrade. You know, that was my entire point before the season, and it helps that CJ McCollum is playing a lot better than he was last year, and I hope he keeps it up. But I feel like it kind of is interesting to show to compare for that specific reason. You know, is trading CJ for James Harden isn't going to fix any of the issues we have. You know, if anything, it's going to exacerbate, you know, the lack of ball movement and whatnot. So, and I don't know, it's just interesting.
I kind of of course, like, read the stuff about James Harden. I don't know if you caught that article about the team like walking on eggshells and doing everything for him. I guess they would stay in cities that he liked. If they had an extra day in between games, they would stay overnight the night after a game just so he could party in that city and stuff like that. He often like canceled practice like right beforehand, and like they just bent over backwards to appease him. And then you have that stuff, you know, this year, him not showing up. But apparently, so Chris Paul, after they lost in the conference finals, went to him and said that they needed more structure in their offense and needed to be able to run a little bit more like sets and stuff like that. And that started the dissension between the two of them, I guess, is that Harden wanted just like a freelancing offense where he broke down the defense and it was all him creating and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul's like, no, it doesn't work in the playoffs. Like, we need to have sets that we run to get shots in the playoffs, because you can't just do that when you're being double teamed and stuff. It doesn't work. You haven't ever had success before I got here, so like, you need to listen. And I guess he just refused to let them change the offense or whatever. And then so apparently he wanted them to trade Chris Paul, and he wanted them to bring in Russell Westbrook. And then Westbrook comes in and says, or I guess he got super upset at how like loose everyone was about the offense. He wanted it to be more structured too, and he wanted
even
it
Russell Westbrook did.
Yeah,
man.
and he wanted I don't know. He just hated how like everything was so like unstructured and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, he wanted it to be more locked in. He wanted people. He thought people would be more focused if they ran plays versus just, oh, stand here and watch Harden like try to create, and if he passes to you, shoot it or whatever. So if we're gonna play that way, like, I guess I wouldn't mind having a guy like Harden, because he's definitely a better playmaker than CJ. But like, overall, like, if he's not willing to go off of that, what makes anyone think like you could trade him to any team and he'd be fine being like the second man or like playing off ball or doing any of that stuff if they had to do all these things just to make him happy in Houston. And I don't want a guy like that. I mean, that's not a winning attitude, you know. Those aren't the type of players that will win championships or help you get to the next level. Those are the kind of guys you have to almost like have the perfect team around just to elevate him back to that status. I'm not saying his skill wise it's not like that, but like, when you have that attitude where you can't do anything wrong and your poop doesn't stink or whatever, like you know, it's like, I don't know, it's always someone else's fault, you know. Like, that kind of attitude, I just don't like that. That being said, I wouldn't be devastated or mad or anything if we made a trade like that. I just don't think that the team's even looking at that at this point.
Yeah, they're not, and I would actually be a bit upset with that. You don't want a guy like that on your team, man. Just flat and simple. I couldn't imagine being teammates with one of those guys. Near Zero dropped a 20 bomb, a $20 donation. Appreciate it, man. You always kill it, and it means a lot. He says, the thing is, you get Harden to unleash Dame in the playoffs. It's that simple. Can a team trap Dame if you're leaving Harden one-on-one? Hell no. And again, Dame is the best leader in sports, in my opinion. Raptors traded one ring. Since when do teams trap Dame when Dame doesn't have the ball? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that. So if Harden's going one-on-one, teams can't trap Dame. Well, when CJ goes one-on-one, teams don't trap Dame. They just have one guy denying him the ball. And then if Dame gets the ball and comes off a screen, he gets trapped. You know? So that's the thing, is like, having Harden off the ball compared to CJ is not going to change anything. There's nothing that Harden provides that's different enough from CJ that's going to somehow change the way Dame is guarded. So that's the thing. I don't think it necessarily unleashes Dame in the playoffs. Like, sure, maybe you could hypothetically run Dame off the ball and off more screens, and Harden can help facilitate that, but you could do that with CJ and have CJ facilitate Dame running off screens. You know, it's not due to the having CJ instead of Harden. Like, there would be no difference in how Dame gets treated with Harden instead of CJ, because it's not like teams are leaving CJ to go trap Dame. It's not like teams are loading off of CJ to load up on Dame. So if you put Harden where CJ is, it's not going to change. You know, they were never loading off CJ in the first place. A lot of it is just we're running pick and rolls 30 feet away from the rim, and they're trapping off of it. And with Harden on the wings, standing off the ball instead of CJ, that's not going to change that at all.
The only thing I'll say to that is you could have Harden bring the ball up, and if they double teamed him, he's a little bigger, so can pass over the top. So you could be more creative in the ways you use Dame to get him easier 3-point shots, maybe.
But here's the thing for me, though. When teams trap Dame, it's not like CJ gets a bunch of open threes. So if you put Harden in there and have him bring up the ball and teams trap Harden, how's it going to get Dame easy threes or easier looks? You know what I mean? Like, I don't see that. And honestly, that's not to say that it couldn't. That's more of a coaching thing. It's just like the way we game plan against the trap. I don't think having Harden over CJ would change anything if we continue to game plan for the trap the way we do.
Yeah, that's true. I just think I don't know, because teams don't double team CJ in the same manner. So I just feel like if teams had to sell out to stop two people, it would just create so many mismatches that I don't see how you could not possibly take advantage of that. But yeah, it's just I mean, I don't know how we don't take advantage of it happening with just Dame either. So
yeah, Near Zero, another $5 donation. He says no, but Harden will pass the ball, CJ will shoot. I mean, I don't know. CJ's getting you 5 assists per game, and it's a lot of times when Dame's getting trapped, CJ will get the ball and the offense will be stagnated and it'll go one-on-one. That'll be the same way with Harden. He'll get the ball and go one-on-one. He might pass out of it a little bit more, but I just don't think it would function all that much differently at all if you had Harden instead of CJ. The way to get it to function differently is to game plan for it differently, right? But that's another conversation for probably another time in terms of how we beat the trap and how we deal with that type of stuff. That's more of a coaching thing, in my opinion.
It is interesting, as Henry Hall points out, how divided Chad is on this topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Henry said he was out of here like 20 minutes ago, and Near Zero kept him in here. So shout out to Near Zero for keeping my viewers above 200 and the donations. Appreciate it, man. But yeah, it's an interesting debate, and obviously we can touch on that in later times. I do want to get the focus back onto this game, though. Let's move on to our second player, who was Damien Lillard, who dropped in 17 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. He didn't shoot the ball well. Was 5 for 16 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3. But Dame's gonna have nights where he's cold, and he had 2 good games the past couple of games, and he dropped 39 last game, right? So it's this is just the ebbs and flows. And he's been a little bit more inconsistent this season than I feel like he normally is, but that's why you have all the talent around him, so that he can have a night where he doesn't shoot well, but you still win games by 26. You still put up 125, you know what I mean? That's why you have CJ, whereas if Dame is struggling, you have a guy like CJ that can step up and take over the game from not only a scoring standpoint, but I feel like when Dame's struggling this year, CJ has stepped up a bit in terms of playmaking for others, getting his 5 assists a game. So, it's, obviously you want to see Dame shoot well, but this year it's not like the outcome depends solely on how well Damian Lillard plays, where I felt like a lot of games last year, the outcome depended on how well Dame played, Of course, there was a game he dropped 60 against Brooklyn and we lost still. But it was mostly okay, Dame has to go off if we're going to win this game because our defense sucks. Dame has to drop in 45 for us to beat the Lakers on the road. Dame has to have a huge game if we're going to blow out anybody, even the worst teams in the league. Whereas this year, it's not quite that dependent on how well he plays, which is nice.
Yeah, like you said, you don't need many people to have a great game when your defense is playing well, and that's why we've been harping on the defense for so long. Is we should be able to have games like this where Dame doesn't play particularly well, is more of a distributor and just runs the offense and doesn't have to make 4 crazy threes where he throws it up thinking he's going to get fouled or shoots from 35 feet or whatever. As exciting as that stuff is, it's hard to have that sustained against elite teams when you get in the playoffs. So, and it's easy to take away if they're trying to take him out of the game. So the fact that you do have people stepping up will be good if it continues to take that pressure off of him. And then eventually what happens is this isn't guaranteed, but we had Jake Layman have a couple of good games a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden, we play the Pelicans and he scores a bunch of points in one quarter. I think he had 20 points in a quarter, and they switch up and have to put Drew Holiday on Jake Layman instead of Damian Lillard, and just little things like that. So if we have people like CJ going off consistently, and then defenses have to maybe think about making him the focus of their defense, and that's going to leave Damian with a little less focus than he normally has, or maybe you give them both equal coverage instead of 75% to Damian and 25% to CJ or whatever. That's going to be so helpful to him down the road. And it's going to take a while for him to get used to being. We've seen him have multiple games where he's had like a wide open shot that he's missed just because he's not used to being open when he shoots the ball. But yeah, so eventually I think this will pay dividends. And that's why having such a deep roster with so much talent is good, because you can't leave Derrick Jones Jr. if he's cutting to the basket. A defensive team would always have to have someone playing that backdoor cut. So that's why movement and stuff off ball is so important, because eventually this will start to pay dividends when defenses have to say, like, okay, we can't just stop Damien and win this game. Like, we have to stop like 3 or 4 guys, and that's how we've wanted them to play for so long. It's nice to see them starting to do it.
And you know what's funny about things is Dame really isn't playing bad at all. You know what I mean? He was insane last year, but he also averaged 37.5 minutes per game last year. Going into tonight, not counting tonight, he was averaging 35.1 minutes per game. And that's going to go down a little bit because he got some rest. And here's the thing. Just look at this. Per 36 minutes, so using per 36 minutes to take out that minute differential. So every 36 minutes he played last season when he averaged 30 points per game, per 36, he averaged 28.8 points per game. Going into tonight, per 36, he was averaging 28.3 points per game. The difference, he's not scoring at, obviously it will go down a little bit because of this game, but the rate at which he's scoring isn't really all that much worse at all. There's like a very minimal difference there. Per 36 minutes assists per game, he got 7.7 assists per game last year. This year going into tonight, 6.8. So about an assist different every 36 minutes. Like, his statistical output is not different. Like, it's a little bit different, but it's honestly, it's not a drastic difference whatsoever. Now, he isn't quite shooting necessarily as well, but honestly, though, going into tonight, his true shooting percentage, everybody's talking about, oh, Dame, isn't shooting as well. His true shooting percentage going into tonight was 61.9%. Last year, it was 62.7%. So for all the people worrying about if Dame's fallen off and all this and all that, going into tonight, his numbers were very close to identical to last year's. So, I feel like he's raised his play to such a high standard that it's just people's expectations are just absolutely insane for what he does,
I forgot what game it was, if it was the Laker game or the first Golden State game, but there was a game where he had like 34 points on 16 shots. And people are like, I saw all on Twitter, like, oh, Dame sucks this game. Like, Dame's having a horrible game. It's like, dude, he scored 34 points. Like, that's not...
Yeah. And here's the thing I love about Dame. He doesn't force things if he doesn't have it going necessarily. Like, today, he shot sometimes, but...
I don't think they're necessarily bad shots, but...
Like, how often do you see him have like an 8 for 28 game? You know what I mean? Like, if shot's not on, he's shooting 16, 17 times, and he's running a good floor game. Like tonight, he'll take a couple like difficult threes that he can hit, and like even when he's cold, I have confidence that he has a good chance at making pretty much anything. Not a good chance, obviously. 40% from three is good, and you're more likely to miss shots. But I still have confidence in him knocking down shots even when he's cold. But like tonight, he just played a good floor game. There was a bunch of attention on him. He made the right pass out. The team got the ball moving. He willingly stood back while CJ McCollum kind of ran the show, and not a lot of stars. We were just talking about James Harden and Chris Paul and the way they were clashing. Not a lot of stars necessarily want to sit back, if they don't have it going. A lot of stars want to get it going, and they want to shoot until they get it going because they're so confident. And Dame has the confidence, but he also has the wherewithal to, okay, CJ has it going, and my shots aren't necessarily falling. I'm going to kind of let him take things over and be the number one this game, and he'll step back and be the number two. And then when he gets the ball, he tries to consistently make the right play and plays a good floor game. So that's the thing with Dame, is like, he didn't shoot the ball well tonight, but I wouldn't say he necessarily played bad. He shot bad, and there's a difference between that. Sometimes you'll shoot good shots and they won't fall. It doesn't mean you're necessarily playing bad. It just means you're shooting bad. Your shots just aren't falling. but that's the thing. He doesn't like compound it and play a style of basketball that's not conducive to winning when he's cold. He knows how to play when he has it going. He knows how to play when his shot's a little bit cold. He knows how to play when CJ has it going. He's willing to defer to a guy like CJ McCollum, and I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't his fault, but I'd like to see. I thought at that point in the third quarter when Stoss took CJ out, I'd like to see when CJ's having the better game, just leave CJ in with the first unit. We saw that a few games ago. I'm not sure why that wasn't the case tonight, but you could have seen a case where Dame didn't even need to come back in this game and played like 5 less minutes in this one, and he would have had basically the same stats. I think he hit a 3 after that or something. So he might have had 3 less points, but just like that's great that you don't even necessarily need Dame in some nights. And that's when we'll start seeing this team turn the corner, is if Dame is not necessarily, we talked about this before the season started, like he doesn't necessarily need to average 30 points a game this year. His numbers might actually go down as long as his efficiency remains near what it was last year. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yep.
And he can still heat up when we need him. Like if it's a close game or we're down by 10 and you need him to go ballistic and hit some 35-footers, then he can do that still. Shouldn't be a requirement for us winning games.
Exactly. I mean, like his numbers going into tonight were, like, as I pointed out, very close to identical to what they were last year. He didn't have a good night tonight shooting the ball, and only dropped 17. So they'll fall off a little bit, but overall, I see a lot of people acting like he's far worse than he was last season, and that's not the case at all. So moving on to the next guy, Jusuf Nurkic, I thought had a very good game today. He dropped in 10 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, as well as 3 steals. He filled up the stat sheet, shot 4 for 8 from the field. He has been playing with more energy and more mobility the past couple of games than he was earlier this season, and that's why I wasn't really worried about Nurkic while everybody was freaking out. We knew he wasn't in shape, and he's a guy who's like kind of prone to lulls where he's not fully mentally in the game, which sucks, but you have there's players that are like that. Maurice Harkless was kind of like that. You have players that end up like that, and like, as I said, he reads stuff on social media. He's the type of guy who is on social media quite a bit, and everybody was freaking out, being super negative to him, and I thought it was kind of drastic and overreactionary. And he's not getting you the scoring output necessarily that you expected this season, but I mean, like, he's not a guy who has to score to be effective, right? He's a guy who, rebounding, boxing out, controlling the boards, playmaking, 5 assists, love to see it. Defensively, I thought this was his best game, and we need him to step up defensively. He was a huge part in us holding the Kings under 100 points. He had an impressive block on Bielitsa, which they called a foul. Stotts challenged. It got overturned. He had 3 steals. He looked more fleet of foot on the defensive end, was in the right spot quicker, and really made it tough on the Sacramento Kings. He had that play where he got a steal. When he trapped the ball, he got a steal, and it ended up in a CJ McCollum easy fast break too. So overall, I think he's playing with more energy. He's looking a little bit more like his old self. Still not, fully back in terms of scoring the basketball necessarily, but I want to see him playing good defense like he did tonight. That is the most important facet of his game, in my opinion. His playmaking, 5 assists per game, some of the passes he made tonight were nice and helped us get easy buckets. Hopefully he can become a little bit more efficient as a finisher. I feel like promising flashes in that regard the past couple of games. He's taking the ball stronger. He's trying to get to the rim. I think 2 of those field goals he missed were on the same play, and he ended up finishing it anyway. So if you take out, so those 2 misses didn't hurt. He's 4 for 6 if you don't count the 2 misses that he rebounded and scored into a lay-in. You know what I mean? So overall, I liked his performance tonight. I thought he played really, really well. People base it off the scoring output alone too much, I feel like. Overall, just played a well-rounded game, finished decently, didn't have a weakness in this game, and provided us with basically every aspect of his skill set.
And how about that play where he knocked the ball loose into the backcourt and he dove for it?
Mm-hmm.
He ended up rolling out of bounds, but like, how agile did he look on that play?
Yeah.
I think in about 2 or 3 weeks we'll be looking back and being like, I can't believe we were worried about Nurk, because he's obviously still kind of laboring out there, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of shape issues. Um, and once he figures that out, I think he'll be a lot better. But overall, there's two things that I always think get him going. One is some sort of defensive play, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
other is the assist, the playmaking. I feel like those are even more important than him scoring. If you want to get him involved scoring, do the play you broke down on the clipboard towards the beginning of the game and get him an easy bucket right off the bat. I think that would be even better than like just throwing it to him straight in the post and having him go to work. Because then you could throw him to the post and he'd have a little bit of a rhythm after he made a shot or whatever. But the thing is, that's why I want him to trap more on pick and roll, is because I feel like that gets him jacked when we got a steal, and it's not even him that scored off it, but like he felt like he made a difference in that play, and that gets him mentally into the game and stuff like that. And I'm not saying it's like good or bad when players are like this, but there are players who the more good things happen early in the game, the more locked in they are, and Nurk seems to be one of those guys. So like, yeah, get him some plays where either he's distributing to a cutting Derrick Jones Jr. You saw that beautiful lob he had. It looked a little high, but Derrick Jones Jr. is such a good athlete that he got that.
Yeah.
Like have plays like that, and have the play where you get him an easy hook shot in the middle of the paint, and then have him active on defense and put in more positions to create turnovers and make big plays. And I think we'll see his once he gets in shape, those type of plays will be even better from his end.
Yep, I agree. Let's jump into the next player. The next player I have, honestly, there wasn't like another guy that played super impressively. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, is there wasn't a lot of great, like, I don't know. Individually, I feel like a lot of guys didn't play necessarily good, and we still dropped 125 points and completely blew the doors off the Kings. So
Yeah.
the next guy I have is Canner. 11 points, 15 rebounds, 4 for 9 from the field. Honestly, I thought his defense during the first half was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Our defense wasn't good, but it wasn't because of him. Most of the time, I would say it's because of him, but overall, he did a good job of rotating quick enough to protect the rim and being in the right spot defensively, and they weren't really exploiting him on the pick and roll. A lot of times guys would drive and he'd actually shift over and help, and then they'd kick out to a guy for an open three against that bench lineup, and we like would have guys over helping a little bit, and therefore it was an open three, or we wouldn't rotate back out correctly, and that was kind of where our issues were with the bench unit. With the starting unit, those issues didn't exist. That's why our starting unit, pretty much all our starters were around a plus 30 for this game, while the bench pretty much played even against the Kings. But for the most part, I don't think it was Enes Kanter that was necessarily the defensive issues. I think it was the help side rotations and over helping when it wasn't needed, and not closing out well, and stuff like that. So overall, I thought he played actually one of his better games defensively this season, even though it didn't really translate to stops necessarily. It wasn't his fault. 4 for 9 from the field, 11 points. Would like to see him finish a little better. There was a possession where he got a couple offensive rebounds and should just kicked it back out, because he had Hassan Whiteside on him giving him fits, and he tried to force it in. But rebounded the ball well. 15 rebounds is impressive, especially considering he only played 19 minutes. So 15 boards in 19 minutes is impressive. 6 of them offensively. That was very solid. So yeah, I mean, just overall solid performance from Canner.
Yeah, I really like his work on the offensive board, especially since our second unit hasn't been shooting particularly great. It's nice to have a guy like that who cleans up the messes. And I thought CJ had a really nice drive where he got kind of lucky because he got caught in the air, but he bounced past it to a cutting Cantor and got an and one. And then a few plays later, Cantor had a nice post up where he went right around, I think it was Bagley, and just used that veteran move on him with a little two-step. But yeah, Cantor is. I mean, he's been doing his thing all year. It's not. I mean, we know what we're going to get from him. We're going to get this type of points and rebounds in limited minutes, and I still wish we would mix it up a little bit. Who's playing with who? Like throw some different lineups and not just go to the same five guys if they're healthy every. Like, oh, the beginning of the second quarter, the beginning of the fourth quarter, we're going to play these five guys or whatever. I'd like to see them interact and mingle, like maybe split up Rocco and Derek Jones Jr. a little bit and Melo and Hood a little bit to see if you can help take the burden off of both of those guys when they're not playing well together. But overall, yeah, I like the way Cantor's playing.
Yep, I agree with that. Rotation wise, I mean, I still, and I'm going to say this till the end of the time, Melo and Cantor is not a good front court pairing from a cohesion standpoint, just with the issues both those guys have defensively. It's like, I don't know. It's like even when Cantor plays all right defensively, the defense still is just a far downgrade overall from the starting lineup. And you're talking about a starting lineup that has Dame and CJ in it, which Melo fans love to consistently bring up. Oh, well, Dame and CJ don't defend. The thing is, they can be a part of a good defensive lineup. I feel like you cannot have a good defensive lineup with Melo and Cantor in the game because when it's your front court players that struggle defensively, it's far worse than when it's your backcourt players. Because your backcourt players, Dame and CJ, if they make a mistake, you have the last line of defense, which is usually the front court, there to back them up and there to help them out. When you have front court players that are your liabilities defensively, like, it makes it so your perimeter players, your backcourt can't get beaten at all, which is very tough in the NBA. They have to completely shut down, perimeter penetration. But then also in pick and rolls, you have to have a big that's able to defend solidly in order to stop most pick and rolls. Even if you have a guy that gets through screens well and defends pick and rolls well when they're guarding the ball, if you don't have good front court help in that regard, teams can kind of target those players through pick and rolls. So that's the thing is it's worse to have poor defenders in the front court than the back court. And I just... the pairing still, it just doesn't work because you have two poor defenders at the 4 and the 5, and I don't think that can really work no matter how good they are offensively.
Well, then you combine that with having CJ at the point, and Hood still obviously isn't moving 100% either. So his defense, he's trying his best, but it's just not there yet. And he's actually not helping much on either end at the moment. So yeah, you have basically 4 bad defenders and Gary Trent Jr. who's having to do all that. So compensate for that. So he's not playing well defensively either. Because, I mean, you could have the greatest defender out there with those 4 guys. It's going to be tough, though, the schemes we run with that unit. That's why I'd rather just, if we're going to have those guys, why not just trap every pick or, just be super aggressive and try to force turnovers or do something with that unit versus just sitting back and letting things happen. Or, like I said, if you don't want to do that, just start maybe playing the same guys the same amount of minutes, just at different points in the game, and taking out a Derek Jones Jr. earlier in the game and then bringing him back with the second unit like you do with CJ or something, just to have a little bit of extra defense in there somewhere. But I don't think it's necessarily anyone's fault. Melo, I mean, we'll get to other guys, I guess, in a minute, but
I can't lately with that. Oh man.
But
the
yeah,
Melo fans have been at my neck, man, and this is a topic that they just go off about.
But Melo, I mean, he played okay in the first half. He was terrible in the second half. Hood was terrible the whole game. Trent was pretty bad, and I mean, he had some shots in garbage time. Had a couple of nice drives in the first half, but overall, not a great game from him either. So yeah, you just don't like to see the second unit struggling. I just don't keep on going back to them. But yeah, it's again, second game in a row, we're in the third quarter up by 30. Do you really have to play Melo and Cantor in that situation? That's the time where you get Little and Giles in there and see if they can do something, give them some extended run. Like those are the minutes you get to your developmental guys, not necessarily to vet to. I mean, did it really matter if Melo played like 22 minutes instead of 27 or what? How many ever he played tonight? Like,
he actually only did play 22, but he's been up there in minutes the past few games. Yeah.
So yeah, it just seems like we're so set on, oh, this player has to come in at this time, and which is weird that a couple games ago it wasn't like that. I just wish they kind of switch it up a little bit, or maybe run a little more structure, or don't. If you're not going to run structured offense, get out and run more so you can maybe get some of these guys easier baskets and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, because when we play good teams, I think the 5 of them are good enough to like keep us in games because they can score and match baskets at times. I just think they need to like work on finding the right rotation instead of trying to force this rotation to work.
Yep, I agree. Let's move on to Carmelo Anthony. I mean, I had a Twitter storm of Melo fans in the past week because I tweeted out per 100 possessions, the team is 17 points better with Carmelo Anthony off the floor than with him on the floor, right? The next closest player that regularly played was Enes Kanter, where the team was 5 points better with Enes Kanter off the floor. So just a drastic difference in that regard. Now, Carmelo tonight, 4 for 12 from the field. He shot well in the first half. I like the way he played in the first half, but second half did not shoot the ball well. I do like that it's less kind of turnaround fades. He had some jumpers where he was kind of facing the basket. He did knock down a little one-legged Dirk type fadeaway, but I don't know, man. I mean,
he missed that dunk too.
He missed a wide. It was a great move. And here's the thing. He had multiple plays where he took the ball strong and got to the line a couple times. I like that. I want more of that. He like the play where he missed the dunk. It was like, dude, really? But I'm happier with that than him missing like a turnaround off balance, almost falling down 18-foot fadeaway with 13 on the shot clock. You know what I mean? So like, it was a nice move. Got to the rim. I like that. Maybe just lay it up next time. You're 36 years old. You've dunked hundreds of times in your career. You don't have to dunk again. He missed that dunk. But I don't know. I mean, there's a point in the third quarter, and I just pointed this out just to kind of troll Melo fans because they're so easy to troll sometimes. Some of them, I tweeted out. There's a point in the third quarter where the team was 34 points better in this game with Melo off the floor than they were with him in the floor. Now, here's the thing. It's not any better for Rodney Hood, and it's not really any better for Enes Kanter or Gary Trent Jr. this game. It was just funny to kind of, troll and throw that out there. But, man, well, I mean, they kind of deserve it because they freak out at me so much. So now I'm just trolling them for the most part. Because I literally had a guy say, I hate this guy. Why are you on another man's back? And I was just like, why are you on my back, man? Melo fans have been going at me. And, yeah, if you want to see all that on Twitter, follow me. But, here's the thing, man. When he doesn't shoot the ball well, what is he doing to help the team? Like, that's what it comes down to. And here's where the pairing kind of comes into play with Kanter is, like, you can kind of handle that if somebody is helping make up for some of his lapses defensively, right? Like, if you have a Nurk, if he's paired with Nurkic, like, if he's just not playing well offensively, he might not really be hurting you that much. If you have a center that can help protect the rim and help cover for him if he gets beat backdoor or whatnot, or if he's not defending super well. But the problem is like, he has to have a really good shooting game in order to help the team if he's paired next to Kanter, because any like defensive mistakes he makes, there's nobody there to help him for the most part. There's nobody there to help cover for him and turn those mistakes into potentially a defensive stop. So teams will exploit those mistakes more often than not when he's paired next to Kanter. So it's like, comes down to when he has poor shooting games, man, it's the bench doesn't play well when he doesn't shoot well, is what I've noticed. And I don't know. I hate that. Like, we should theoretically have a bunch of talent on this bench. The thing is, like, Rodney Hood, hypothetically, if he's playing like how he was last year and like recovered, is a talented player, but right now he's not helping whatsoever. Rodney Hood might be the worst player on this bench right now. And Gary Trent Jr. is kind of, I don't know. He can get it going and get hot, but he hasn't been necessarily amazing, so to say. He hasn't had like big scoring outbursts the past few games. So, I feel like there's other guys probably underachieving there, but theoretically, this is a talented bench, and it shouldn't rely on one guy shooting so heavily, in my opinion. So I don't know like where this goes long term, but it's like when Carmelo goes 4 for 12, even against a Kings team that isn't playing well, the bench isn't going to really outpace theirs, even though the starters are absolutely dominating them. So that's just kind of what I noticed from this game.
And I mentioned this earlier, like, I don't understand why we don't run that cross screen for Melo if we're going to post him up and get him a little deeper position, maybe, turn those 15-foot jumpers into 8 to 10-foot jumpers. Or, if he's closer to the rim, maybe he'd attack a little more. I just feel like we're just not doing him any favors by, like, simply posting him up 12 feet from the basket. Like, those kind of plays just... like I said, people just stand around and watch him. He did pass out of it a couple times tonight, but for the most part, he doesn't have anyone to really pass to, or there's no movement. They just know it's going up, and the players don't really move. And I just wish we'd run some action out of that, like use the defensive attention to our advantage, because he still draws attention from the defense. Like, there has to be a way to take advantage of that, and I don't understand why we're not trying to like milk that a little bit. And then, he can always post up. It doesn't matter. I mean, like, even if he's getting defensive attention or not, like, he'll always be able to get that mid-range shot up. So I don't understand why you have to like force it to him to take that shot. He'll get that naturally throughout the course of the game as you break down possessions and shot clocks start to run down and stuff like that.
Yep. Shout out JM, $2 donation. He says, how high would you go on a Gary Trent Jr. contract? Above 15 million, I have to think about it. Above 20 million, I'd probably say no. But yeah, I mean, with Carmelo, it's just crazy how much more efficient he is from 3 than he is from 2. And that kind of goes back to my point. Like, I don't know. I'd rather we just use him more as a spot-up shooter. But the pairing doesn't work. I don't know how Stotts doesn't see it yet. I don't know what the plan is long-term for the Carmelo and Kanter pairing, but I think it's pretty obvious that it's not really the right thing and that they need to figure something out in that regard. The thing is, if we had a bench that was like a top 5 bench, which was what we should have, right? Like, we have the talent, and obviously there's things out of the control, like Rodney Hood's recovery and whatnot, but we have enough talent to hypothetically have at least a top 10 bench. If we had a good bench, just imagine like games like this, we're winning by 45 points. You know what I mean? Our starters outscored theirs by basically 30. And then, I don't know. I just want to see the starters playing good basketball with a bench playing good basketball. And the starters are ahead of the bench at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's move on to the next player. We got Derrick Jones Jr., who had 9 points for his second game in a row, 4 for 6 from the field. One of those misses was a missed poster dunk over Marvin Bagley. I feel like multiple players this year have had almost like insane poster dunks that we've missed. I mean, Melo missed a dunk that was wide open. Melo obviously ain't going to posterize anybody, but I feel like there's a lot of missed dunks this year.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of think he gets a little too high and tries to throw it down, so it's like all his momentum's going a little too far, but he's going to finish some of those eventually. But I like the fact that he was cutting a lot more this game. We saw him kind of stand around the three-point line. He cuts a few times, but not very often. But good things happen. Even if you just don't get a shot and you run through to the other side, it still gets your guy to move with you and still takes the focus off someone watching the ball just out of the corner of their eyes, seeing you cut and stuff like that. Like, that can lead to CJ or Dame getting a slightly more open shot than they would have had you not cut. So I just wish he would cut almost every play. Like, he could still go and post, like, spot up on the opposite three-point line. You don't have to. And you can do it multiple times in a possession, too. Like, nothing's stopping. There's no limit to how many times you can cut in a game or a possession or anything. So I don't understand why we wouldn't just have him cut all the time. But, just like to see more of it. But I'm glad we took advantage of a few of them tonight.
Yeah, and he played good defense today. Fought through screens well. He was matched up against De'Aaron Fox for stretches of that game, and De'Aaron Fox only had 10 points, 2 assists, 3 for 9 shooting in 25 minutes, right? De'Aaron Fox is kind of underachieved this year. Didn't he get a max contract this offseason? Yep. Yeah, he's going to have to
turn into a super max too
to live up to that. But I mean, Jones hit a 3. It was nice to see. I was hoping he'd shoot better from 3 than he has so far this season. Tonight he was 6 for 21 from the 3-point line going into tonight's game. After that, he is 7 for 23, which equates out to 30.4% from the 3-point line. I would like to see him shoot a little bit better, but I mean, what did we need? We needed a guy who cuts well. We needed a guy who plays defense, and hopefully he can improve his 3-point shot a little bit to help us out in that regard. But I did like some of the off-ball movement we saw from him tonight. That was a great... I mean, that should have been another assist for Nurkic, by the way, that dunk that Derrick Jones Jr. missed. But Nurkic spun baseline past his guys. Somebody came over and helped, and Jones cut, and Nurkic did a wraparound pass around the help defender to Derrick Jones Jr. cutting. The help defender was Bagley, who turned around and contested Jones's dunk. But plays like that is what I want to see more of. I want to see more cutting, more shots around the rim. I want us to be more of an interior threat offensively. Derrick Jones Jr. definitely brings that. So he had another solid game today. It's nice to see him get going a little bit offensively. 2 games in a row where he drops 9 points. Obviously he's not a scorer, and we don't necessarily need him to be much of a scorer. We just need him to make the right cut, hit an occasional 3, and play defense. And it's he can provide all 3 of those, I think, and he has provided that the past couple of games. So let's move on to our 7th player here. We got Gary Trent Jr. He got a couple buckets in garbage time, 4 for 9 from the field, 2 for 4 from the 3-point line. He played 31 minutes tonight, which shocked me. Because
he played the whole 4th quarter. So
I feel like he didn't really make much of an impact. Like he didn't. Like, either way, positive or negative, he didn't really make much of an impact today. It was almost easy to forget he was even out there. I don't know. Like, defensively, he didn't really get scored on, but it's not like he was playing insane defense. He just didn't get scored on, so it was good defense, I guess, but not anything that you really notice. Offensively, he had a couple of shots in garbage time, but he didn't really make a whole lot happen. He did have a nice drive and dish to Canner. He did have a nice drive and finger roll, so it's nice to see him get downhill into the paint. But he's a guy who plays his role well, so he'll have games where he doesn't play bad necessarily, but you just don't really notice him necessarily. And I think that was kind of the case tonight. Overall, okay game. And I think this is kind of an average game for him.
Still like to see a way, he's the same type of guy who, if he hits his first 3, can get unconscious from 3. So I'd like to see him come off a screen and use to get him an open shot. Same with Hood, just to try and see if we can get him going maybe. So I feel like we have a lot of players that aren't necessarily good fits right now for the style of play we're playing, and that's why we've been so high on maybe running some more structure or getting out in the fast break, like a guy like we just talked about with Derrick Jones Jr. You'd get him some easy baskets in transition. Same with Gary Trent Jr. You get him some 3s off some chaotic plays or some set screen plays or whatever. I feel like we could get him to the point where he's not disappearing or seeming like he's not even in the game for long stretches. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to nitpick too much when we blow teams out, but yeah.
Next player we got is Robert Covington, 6 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. It's nice to see him have 4 assists, 2 for 4 from the 3-point line. I thought he played well tonight. People want to just look at points and base how players play off of that, but you're talking about a guy in Rocco who played 28 minutes, got 8 rebounds. That's a good rebounding number for him. 4 assists, made the right pass, helped with our ball movement. 2 for 4 from 3. He only shot 3s, but 2 for 4 from 3, 50%. That's good. Defensively, was very, very good tonight. So overall, I was saying, there isn't really anybody else who played good individually, but I thought he did play a good game tonight. People will look at 6 points. Oh, he didn't do anything. But the game is a lot more than how many points you score.
Yeah, but very solid game from him. He's also one of those guys who, if he's playing well, you're not necessarily going to notice that he's even in the game, like we just talked about with Trent. So that usually means he's doing his job if you're not noticing him, especially on the defensive end. The fact that he hit a couple threes tonight was nice. I thought the plays where he did hit threes, so we had some really good ball movement. There was actually a play where he tried to make an extra pass and it got knocked out of bounds, but he was actually open for a three and tried to pass to Dame in the corner, but he probably could have taken that shot too. So it's nice. Those kind of plays were moving the ball around the perimeter. I felt like he got some good looks out of those this game.
Yep, and here's the thing. He didn't start off the season shooting well, right? And everybody's like, dang, he can't hit a shot. He shot 19% during his first 4 games in December. But in January, in these first 5 games of January, he is shooting 44% from the three-point line. He's 11 for 25. So, yeah, he's been shooting really, really well in the month of January. And I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, he'll get going. He's kind of streaky. He'll have like a 4 or 5 game span where he really can't hit much, but then he'll have a 4 or 5 game span where he'll shoot like 40% from 3. In January, he's shooting 44%. You'll take that for sure, especially considering what he provides you defensively. And then, like, he's not going to impress you assist-wise necessarily. Going into tonight's game, he was averaging only 1.6 assists per game. For his career, he's averaging 1.5. But he makes the right pass. And he's either going to shoot the open 3, and if it's contested, he'll quickly swing the ball. And a lot of times it doesn't necessarily result in assists, but it gets the ball moving, and it gets movement in the offense, and he makes quick decisions. He's not like a guy that's going to pass up the 3 and then stand there and hold the ball and maybe take a couple dribbles, then pass, right? He makes quick decisions, and normally they're good decisions on whether or not to shoot or pass the ball. So that's the thing, is like he's always been a guy his intangibles and the little things about his game are underrated. So one might look at tonight's box score and see 6 points and not think he played all that well. He's only averaging 6.6 points for the season, which, last year he averaged double that. He averaged a little over 12 points per game. The year before that, averaged 13. So scoring output-wise, he isn't really necessarily where he was the past few seasons for his career. But, I mean, you don't need him to score. You just need him to hit open shots and provides all the things he provides, which he did tonight.
Yeah, he's also on a team where he doesn't need to score, really. But the thing is, he's been mostly playing with the starters since they haven't really mixed the lineups up that much. So most of his time has come with Dame and CJ in the game, so he's not going to get a ton of shots. Whereas at times, when Harden or Westbrook weren't on the floor last year, he was like the second option on offense or whatever. So, I just don't. I don't know. Like I feel like he's been fine in the role he's been given this year, and I mean, the more he knocks down threes, the better. Obviously, it'll be, but I don't think he's not hurting the team, and he's definitely helping them in other areas other than scoring. So I can't really say anything bad about his performance tonight.
Yep. And he helps space the floor. People respect his shot, I mean, like, it's hard. He's not getting Al-Farouq Aminu type wide open catch and shoot threes. So, I still like the pickup for sure. And he's definitely helping this team on the defensive end, as well as helping them play a better brand of basketball on the offensive end in terms of ball movement and, just his decision making on that end. I've been impressed with. The last player we're going to cover is Rodney Hood, who didn't score. Had 4 assists, though. I mean, 4 assists, cool. 2 steals, 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 3 from the three-point line. He's obviously still recovering, and maybe this quad injury is lingering, because I thought he was actually solid to maybe even good defensively before he missed those couple of games with the quad strain, and then since then he's looked a little less mobile on that end. So I don't know if that's lingering or if that's just, a misjudgment or something, but I don't think he's been terrible defensively or anything. I think offensively, once he starts to hit threes, once he gets going that way, he'll be fine. And he just has to get his rhythm back. I mean, you're talking about a guy who maybe was starting to build a little bit of a rhythm and then ended up missing a couple games and ending up back out of rhythm. And he just needs a long stretch where he's able to stay healthy. And he's never... I don't know. I feel like he's never necessarily been the most consistently confident guy in the way he plays. So I think he just needs time to build more confidence, get a rhythm back, all of those sorts of things before he starts to truly help us offensively again. I think he will get there, but he's obviously not there yet. He's not making much of an impact on that end. But you do like seeing 4 assists tonight. I don't even remember any of them specifically, but it's nice to see him get 4 assists, 2 steals as well. Like, he's not playing well right now, but it's kind of just a situation where you gotta be patient with him.
Yeah, and I'm not going to kill a guy coming back from an Achilles injury. Kind of going through the same thing, so I don't know how my game's going to be at this point moving forward either. But yeah, it's I can't imagine trying to play in the NBA after that kind of surgery. But yeah, it's much like Nurkic. I think at some point down the road, we'll be looking back on this and being like, okay, phew, it was just him trying to figure things out and work back. Because, I don't know, he just fit in too well and was too good of a shooter to have that just fall off after an injury. Even a devastating injury like that, it doesn't really affect your jump shooting that much. So, like I feel like he'll be fine eventually. I just wasn't expecting anything. I didn't even think he was going to play really that much to begin the season. So the fact that he's even out there at all, I think, is a good sign, especially with how cautious Portland has been with some of these injuries to hold guys back from playing. Like Nurkic last year, I felt like they waited probably longer than they maybe should have. I know he had a setback, but like even before he had that setback, it felt like they were just waiting for the sake of waiting. And so like the fact that he's out there playing right now leads me to believe that it is just him working back into game shape versus like the injury really affecting him in terms of being able to play. And it's just going to take a while for him to be able to do the same things he did before.
Yep, agreed. So those are the individual players. Let's quickly go over the Sacramento.
I just want to say one thing about Little. His shot looks amazing. His jump shot.
Oh, how smooth it looks? Yeah.
I mean, I know he only shot one time tonight, but dude, it looked like perfect. Like I'm amazed because it got better last year. Like he looked good shooting last year, but it looks like he looks like a shoot. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say he's Ray Allen or anything, but like he looks like he is like a lights out 3-point shooter. That's how good his form looked tonight on that shot.
I mean, we're talking about 1-3 he shot in 10 months, but
just the smoothness of it. Like
it looked good for sure.
Because he had like, it was a little bit of like a slow, and it was like kind of he didn't have a hitch, but it was like he had this like weird like stop in it, and it like he kind of brought the ball forward before he shot it. But now it's just like one motion, quick like release. It looks like really smooth, and I mean, like you said, one shot can't really take anything of it. I just like the fact that he caught it, shot it right away. It was a quick release with confidence, and if he starts turning into a shooter where you can rely on him to shoot like 37 to 40% from three, that guy could become a really good player in this league.
Yeah, his shot looks good. I agree with that. I'm just kind of giving you crap, but
yeah.
I mean, here's the thing: a lot of guys' shots can look good, and they'll still be like 30% shooters. Right, you know what I mean? Like Jake Layman's shot has always looked great form wise, and he's kind of struggling with his 3-point shot this year, and has always kind of struggled with his 3-point shot. So it's nice that it looks good. Obviously, we'll wait and see how that translates long term.
Just that combined with the stories you hear about how dominant he looked prior to getting COVID and how good he looked before getting hurt in the bubble. Like it's starting to give me a little bit of Jermaine O'Neal type vibes. For us old school people, maybe Beavis is the only other person in here that can relate to this. But so for those that don't know, so Jermaine O'Neal was drafted out of high school. and didn't really get a chance to play much in Portland because we had such a good team. But the rumors you always heard was that in practice, he was like the best player and always dominated like Rasheed Wallace and those kind of guys in practice. And then we gave him a contract, promised him minutes. He got unhappy because he wasn't getting those minutes. And then Benjamin knows too. But so then we ended up trading him for basically nothing. And he blossomed elsewhere. But like, I don't know, I'm starting to get those vibes where he just has such a good work ethic that it might just be a case of it's only a matter of time before this guy's like an impact player in the NBA.
I'm not going to read too much into that. We heard about how Caleb Swanigan looked good and could rookie of the year. He has a chance to win rookie of the year.
That was Scal, actually.
No, that was Caleb Swanigan. Remember,
Scal last year was MVP. Yeah.
And then Anthony Simons, most talented player. Like, you always hear about guys getting hyped up, and sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. And so I'm not going to read too much into like what's being said. His shot looks good, but it's like we've seen this guy play 2 real basketball games in 10 months basically, so it's kind of just like, I don't know. I'm excited for him for sure, and I think he has the chance to be a really good player. I just feel like there's a chance that, if he like hits a couple garbage time shots, people are going to get all hyped, and then why isn't he playing when I don't know he should necessarily be playing or anything, and I don't know, like I don't want to get too high on him necessarily, even though I'm excited about what he could be.
I just believe in players like you saw this with Gary Trent last year. It seems like with a lot of players, I'm trying to think of an example. You can maybe say like an Andrew Wiggins type, where they have the talent, but they obviously don't put in the work to maximize that talent. So I feel like you got guys like Gary Trent and us here, little players like that I just have confidence in. Whether or not they become a great player or not, I feel like it won't be because they're not putting in the time. It'll be because of other factors. So it's just good to see that and hear stuff about him doing work, and then just to see him, even if it's only for a few minutes, seemingly look very smooth and polished and like he is working his butt off, because the shot looks better and you don't just get there by not working. So just all those things put together make me very confident that he'll at least be a rotational player very soon.
Yep. It was nice to see CJ Ellaby hit a 3 finally. Yeah. It was nice to see Anthony hit a couple threes. I didn't really cover anybody that played less than 10 minutes tonight. I didn't really cover the garbage time guys, but you had a couple nice moments in garbage time, including that little 3. For the Kings, they were led by Marvin Bagley, who just does not look good. He was 5 for 14 from the field, but he did lead them with 15 points. There's rumors about how he wants out. His dad has publicly called for him to be traded. He just doesn't look good. He doesn't look like the prospect that was idealized when he, came into the league. They really messed up by not taking Luka and taking him instead. You had Tyrese Halliburton, though, is looking like their best draft pick in years, man. I think they definitely hit on that guy. He's been phenomenal for them. He's been super impressive, and he looked impressive tonight. He's just... Dude, he was a guy me and you loved in the draft. Tonight, in 31 minutes, he had 12 points, 8 assists, 5 for 8 from the field, 1 for 4 from the three-point line. He had a steal. I thought he played solid defense. He was probably their best player tonight. And when you're talking about a rookie who wasn't picked in the top 10 in what is hypothetically a weak draft, like that's pretty good. He's averaging 12 points per game and 5 assists going into tonight. He was shooting 53% from 3 on 5 attempts per game, as well as 51% from the field. I think they hit on him. I think in a couple years, he's going to be their guy and not De'Aaron Fox. I think there's definitely a chance of that. I'm not going to say that definitively, but I think there's a chance that he ends up being their guy because he's looked phenomenal. He's still only 20 years old. He's my favorite rookie in this year's draft class. I love Tyrese Halliburton's game. He's a great person, and just it's nice to see him succeeding. And I want to know what you think about his game, but then also I want to touch on this year's draft classes actually look good as well beyond that, so we can talk about both those things really quickly here.
Yeah, Halliburton. So his first stint in the game, he actually started tonight, and then he didn't get a shot. I don't think in the first rotation he had, but he had like 6 assists, which is cool to see. And the fact that they didn't score a lot means he assisted on most of their shots during that stretch. And then in the third quarter, there was a stretch where he like almost got them back in the game through his play. But yeah, he's a guy I loved. I had him fifth on my draft board, and yeah, I can't believe he fell to the Kings that deep in the draft. I think he can play next to Fox. That'll be a good backcourt pairing. I think at some point they should probably move on from Hield to make that happen and maybe shore up their front line a little bit. But yeah, when you make a mistake like you did with Bagley, it just sets you back so far unless you can somehow figure it out.
I mean, they got Divac out of there and immediately make a great draft pick. So
yeah,
I definitely think there is a link there. But yeah,
but the rest of their offseason wasn't great, though, I don't think. I don't know.
Here's the thing, though. Just in regards to the entire draft class from 2020, I think I'm starting to think it was a very underrated draft class.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of players look really good. One of those is Peyton Pritchard, who I know a lot of Blazer fans are familiar with, him being a local product, played at Oregon, all that. He's looked really, really good. Emmanuel Quickley has looked good for the Knicks.
I don't know if you saw, but Tyrese Maxey had to play 44 minutes today because they only had 7 players.
And he dropped 39 against the Nuggets.
Yeah.
He dropped 39 points, most points since Allen Iverson dropped 40 his rookie year. That's just another guy. I mean, Precious has been a rotation player for the Heat, and he's played solid. I know I'm blanking on a few guys. I need to look at like rookie stats. I mean, you had LaMelo Ball dropping a triple-double today. I wasn't high on him, but he's looked better than I expected him to his rookie season. Anthony Edwards there's a good old ad. That's a pizza ad. There's your ad for tonight. Anthony Edwards has looked good. He's averaging 15 a game. You got who else you got? I mean, James Wiseman has had some nice moments for the Warriors. Sadiq Bey is shooting 46% from 3. Is averaging 10 a game for the Pistons. Patrick Williams has looked good so far this year. I mean, you just go down the list here, man. Cole Anthony has had some moments, and that wasn't a guy I was high on, but he's going to be their starting point guard now that Fultz is out.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot more minutes.
Dude, this rookie class is looking very, very good, and it was labeled a very bad rookie class. I'm already on board with it being very underrated, especially just from a depth standpoint. You've had a lot of really good rookies this year. Especially considering when they didn't have a summer league and got drafted and were playing games that count literally like a month after they got drafted. Very impressed. So.
Yep, I think, I mean, every draft class you could find guys that could play. I'm with you. I thought, we broke down a lot of guys that, unfortunately, those videos, we just didn't have enough time to release them all. But I found myself liking so many guys in this draft, in that, especially that mid to late lottery area, and a lot of those guys are paying dividends for those teams.
Yep. Let's go around the NBA super quickly before we wrap up the stream. The Nuggets beat the 76ers 115-103. The Sixers have had, issues with the virus, and we're only dressing up 7 guys tonight. They played Tyrese Maxey, Dakota Mathias, and Isaiah Joe over 40 minutes in this game. It wasn't an OT game. Their bench consisted of Paul Reed and Tony Bradley. That was their bench tonight.
They had to suit up Mike Scott, even though he wasn't playing, just to have enough people to play. Yep.
Yeah, so the Nuggets, it was a closer game than you thought, 115-103, considering the Sixers started Danny Green, Dwight Howard, Tyrese Maxey, Dakota Mathias, and Isaiah Joe, and the Nuggets pretty much had everybody except Michael Porter Jr., who's out for a while due to safety protocols, which is kind of ironic. Or actually, wait, it's not ironic at all. If you know some of his previous comments,
more like karma.
Yeah. So Gary Harris had 21 for the Nuggets to lead them. Jokic had 15 points, 12 assists, and 9 rebounds. Moving on, we had the Hornets moving to 5-5. They beat the Hawks, who looked good early, but the Hawks are starting to struggle a bit here. The Hornets moved to 5-5. Yeah, the Hornets moved to 5-5. The Hawks are now 4-5. The Hornets were led by LaMelo Ball, who is now the youngest player to ever have a triple-double in the NBA. He had 22 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, shot for 3 for 5 from the three-point line, 9 for 13 from the field.
He was 1 assist shy of doing it last night too.
Yeah, so he's looking good. He's definitely looking good. PJ Washington had 22 points. Terry Rozier had 23 points for them. And if you have LaMelo Ball like playing good basketball, this team is actually interesting and has a chance at potentially making a playoff run, because you do have Devontae Graham, who has kind of struggled, but you have Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier. PJ Washington is really underrated at this point. He is averaging 3 assists per game. He's up just passing. He can knock down threes. He had 22. You got Gordon Hayward, of course, and then you add LaMelo Ball to that. You got Miles Bridges there. You got some interesting players. Caleb Barton has kind of taken a step up and played well for them this year. You have some interesting players there in Charlotte. Yeah,
I think their demise will be their big rotation isn't great.
Yeah, they'll have to shore that up.
But they're a fun team to watch. At least they're one of those teams that should rank pretty high on like the league pass ratings or whatever.
They're an interesting target for a guy like Kevin Love or LaMarcus Aldridge maybe at the deadline. If they want to make a playoff run, I could see them trading for one of those guys, and you probably wouldn't have to give up much. That could be interesting going forward.
Yeah, like a Kevin Love guy, you would think, oh, why would they do that, and why would they get caught up in his contract? But they just gave 4 years to Gordon Hayward, so they're kind of screwed anyways.
You could start with Terry Rozier and open up a starting spot for LaMelo by trading like Terry Rozier, and that's almost $20 million of salary. So I feel like there will be a player at the deadline. The Hawks in the loss had 20 points and 8 rebounds from DeAndre Hunter, who has taken a step up this year. He's actually averaging 16 points per game and 7 rebounds, and has shot the 3-ball well this year at about a 40% clip. So he's stepped up for them. He was the 4th overall pick of last year's draft. I feel like he kind of got forgotten about last year and heading into this year, but he's been legitimate. The Suns moved to 7-3 with a 125-117 win over the Pacers. Our guy, Mikal Bridges, had 34 points, which is a career high. He shot 12 for 18 from the field, 6 for 8 from the three-point line. He's been having a solid season for the Suns and give them an added scorer, added two-way player to their big three of Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, Bridges has maybe been their best player this year, because Booker and Paul still haven't even played that well. Speaking of on-off stats, I've seen some stats that Phoenix has been much better without Paul on the floor, which is crazy. It's be interesting to see if those guys start to play a lot better, how that impacts them winning-wise, or if it's better to have a more balanced team.
Yeah, and Chris Paul, during the season, Chris Paul is only averaging 13 points per game. He is averaging 8.5 assists per game, but he's shooting 43% from the field and 30% from 3. This is why I wasn't high on the Suns necessarily, because I didn't expect Chris Paul to not decline a little bit. You're talking about a point guard who's 35 years old. He'll turn 36 before the end of the season. And he's not going to be completely running the show when you got a guy like DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker there. But despite him not playing well, they're still 7-3, and they've won a lot of close games, and that's helped them. And it's still early on in the season, but you have guys like Cameron Johnson, who had 16 tonight. Javon Carter had 10 points off the bench in only 16 minutes. You got Jay Crowder there. You got Mikal Bridges stepping up and doing what he did tonight. So they're definitely looking like a playoff team. Domantas Sabonis had an had a crazy stat line. He had 28 points, 22 rebounds, and 4 assists, 12 for 24 from the field. He's been phenomenal this season. He is so far averaging 22 points per game, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. So Arvydas' son, my Gonzaga guy, DeMontis, has been showing out for the Pacers, who fall to 6-3. Malcolm Brogdon had 22 for them. Justin Holiday 17 off the bench. I still like Indiana. I still think they're a sleeper this year for sure.
Yeah, I just hope we beat them next week.
Yeah, for sure. Miami moves to 4-4 with a win over the Washington Wizards, score of 128 to 124. Jimmy Butler almost had a triple-double. He had 26 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 10 for 18 from the field. He had been struggling so far this season, and he stepped up and had a good game. Miami has kind of been struggling right there along with him. Another guy who had been struggling was Tyler Hero, but he poured in 31 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists on 12 for 20 shooting for the Heat. Dragic had 21 off the bench. And then you got Washington losing another game. They were without Westbrook, and they were without Bradley Beal due to health and safety protocols. They were led off the bench by Garrison Matthews, who had 22 points in 23 minutes for them. He had 4 threes. Avdia had a good game, had 20 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. So they almost beat the Heat without both Westbrook and Beal. But their comeback fell short. They were down 17 points heading into the fourth and got it to within 4 for the final margin there.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw why Beal is out, but so Jason Tatum, I guess, tested positive or something, and he's out 14 days or something like that. But the game yesterday, it was shown them hugging after the game and having a conversation on the court. And so Beal has to be isolated too for a certain amount of time.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. The NBA was doing good for a bit there, and now it's starting to struggle a little bit in regards to that. But we've still only had one canceled game, and that was the first game of the year between the Thunder and the Rockets. So we've been doing better than the NFL. And I mean, the NFL didn't have a canceled game, but they only play once a week. You know what I mean? Like if they were playing as much as the NBA, I feel like they would have had far more canceled games by this point. But then the Major League Baseball struggled a bit too. I feel like the NBA is doing probably better than those other two leagues so far in handling this. The Bucks beat the Cavs 100-90. Chris Middleton had 27 points. Giannis did not play in this one. The Cavaliers fall to 5-5. Milwaukee moves on to 6-4. The Cavs have been solid this year. They're another team that'll be interesting to see long term, like along with Atlanta and Charlotte. There's some hypothetical bottom feeders here who have actually been competitive. The Cavs didn't have Colin Sexton or Darius Garland or Kevin Love. Kevin Love's always hurt. I heard at some point in this game, at one point, they were playing a lineup that included Thon Maker, Larry Nance Jr., Andre Drummond, and JaVale McGee. They had those 4 in the lineup at the same time at one point in this game. I saw a tweet saying that, which is just absolutely insane to me. I guess Thon Maker was their shooting guard for a bit there. I guess Larry Nance Jr., I don't know. But 26, 24, and 3 for Drummond. Damian Dawson had 21 for them. You got a couple other games. DeMar DeRozan had 38 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in a Spurs overtime win against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who had Karl Anthony Towns return for them today. Towns dropped 25 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists. The Spurs move on to 5-4. They've been playing solid basketball so far. And then the Mavericks beat the Magic. They were led by 36 points from Tim Hardaway Jr. Nikola Vucevic had 30 points, 15 rebounds, 2 assists. Vucevic has been playing insane basketball this season. He's averaging 22, 11, and 3. He's, for the season, shooting over 50% from the field and over 40% from the three-point line. But some injury issues for the Magic, losing Markelle Fultz, not having Jonathan Isaac. Kind of feel bad for them because, they don't really get a chance to see what they look like full strength with Vucevic playing this way. But they're still 6-4. So
yeah, the only thing is that might help develop a guy like Cole Anthony faster, just getting thrown in the fire like that. But yeah, this year they're kind of screwed.
Yep. So that's around the NBA. The Blazers, with the win tonight, are currently tied for fourth in the West, along with 5 other teams. The Jazz, Warriors, Blazers, Mavericks, and Spurs are all 5-4. The Blazers are only 1.5 games out of first place, which is the Phoenix Suns at 7-3. The Lakers are also 7-3. We do have an upcoming matchup against the Suns. The Clippers are in third at 6-4. You got the Thunder at 4-4, surprisingly, even though they have a scoring margin of -6. They are at 4-4. The Pelicans and Nuggets are at 4-5. The Rockets are at 3-4. The Kings are at 4-6. Grizzlies 3-6. Timberwolves 2-7. So it's still pretty bunched up. There's really no clear-cut tiers here so far this season. The best team in the league is 7-3. The Sixers and Celtics are both 7-3 in the East. So it's not like you have a team like running out to a 9-1 record or anything, or having a big winning streak to start the season. So still pretty jam-packed standings that you can't take anything away from.
Mm-hmm. Let me try to find it real quick. The Celtics might be in some trouble coming up here. Let me try to find it real quick. I don't know. Keith Smith had their expected rotation for tomorrow night, if they end up playing that game. Okay, here it is. So they have their starting lineup will most likely be Teague, Smart, Naismith, Tice, and Taco Fall.
Wait, say that again? I'm trying to think positions here.
Jeff Teague,
Yeah.
Marcus Smart, Aaron Naismith,
Tice.
Daniel Tice, and Taco Fall.
Yeah, that's a bad lineup.
Tice and Fall are their only power forwards or centers that they have available. All the other 3 guys they'll have available are Pritchard, Waters, and Edwards.
So
like
3 short point guards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. Oof. I mean, we don't play them anytime soon, so won't really affect any of our matchups with them. But yeah, see, that's why it would have been nice to use the 2-way spots productively in case we have something happen like these other teams right now. But, maybe at some point we're going to have to rely on Keljin Blevins to play 25 minutes and we'll lose the game because of it. And you know what I mean? Like,
he wasn't even active tonight, so we didn't waste one of his games. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried. Just we only have 15 guys that can play. Most teams have 17.
Yeah.
So, no, we only have 14 guys because Collins is out. So
yeah.
Hopefully we don't have to deal with something like this because we are one of the least prepared teams to deal with this out of any team in the NBA. Thankfully, we haven't had any of these issues so far, but neither had the rest of the NBA. And now you're starting to see some serious issues with multiple teams. So we'll just have to wait and see how this looks like throughout the season.
I mean, we had a game a couple games ago where Little wasn't recovered yet, and Gary Trent Jr. was out. And then Hood was out for a couple games, like those kind of things. And then if you get a couple guys with COVID after already having a couple guys out, that could be pretty bad. And we might have to like postpone or cancel games. I guess maybe that's the strategy, is just either have 14 or don't have enough to play at all. And then you won't worry about it because you don't have enough players. But I think the NBA would kind of question why we're not signing someone to those open roster spots if that was the case.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we don't have to deal with anything like
that.
But
you're also seeing, though, that a lot of this season, at least standings-wise, might just come down to luck of what teams don't play certain teams that have outbreaks or stuff like that. Because Portland could do everything right, but they could play, like, the Celtics and Jason Tatum test positive, but you just played him and all your guys had contact with him, and that could be an outbreak. So that's why they're cracking down so hard on players who are caught like breaking the rules and stuff like that. So hopefully that doesn't happen with Portland, but it's just going to be a matter of luck, in my opinion, if they're because I don't see Portland really like breaking a lot of rules on purpose. I think they're all focused on the season, and they're all guys who don't really care about partying that much.
And here's
we got guys that like to drink, but it's not necessarily like at a club or anything,
And here's the thing: the deeper we get into the season, the less of a risk there is. More people get vaccinated. Hopefully, that'll bring case numbers down, and the players will get vaccinated. Maybe late in this season. So obviously, that'll play a role in it. It's just very dynamic season in regards to this whole pandemic. But yeah, the Blazers end up getting the win tonight. The stream has gone a little bit long, so we're gonna wrap it up right here. We will have your post-game stream on Monday. All right, I'm just checking, make sure it's Saturday. So Monday we'll have Blazers Uprise live, picks against the spread, and all that. And then later that day we will have the post-game show after we play the Raptors. That'll be an interesting game. They were a team that was 1-6. But they just dropped like 144 points on the Kings without Kyle Lowry. So that was yesterday. That was yesterday, right? Yeah, that was yesterday. They're a team that's talented and well coached. That is 2-6, but is coming off a game where they played really, really well. So we will preview that game on Monday on Blazers Uprise Live. That'll be the second part of that stream after picks against the spread, and then we will have the post game show after that. Hopefully, the Blazers can take care of business and move their record to 6-4 on Monday. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to follow us on Twitter at TorJonesYT for me, at HoopsJock for Eric. At Blazers Uprise YT for the channel. You can stay updated with everything we're doing over there. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so. We are very close to 4,000 subscribers here on the main channel. That would be very nice to hit. We're also almost at 1,000 subscribers over on our secondary streaming channel, which is where Blazers Uprise Live streams at. That channel is called Blazers Uprise Live. The link is down in the description box below if you want to go subscribe to that. Greatly appreciate everybody who donated today and all my channel members, as well as everybody who tuned in for this stream and everybody who participated in chat. You guys mean the world to us and make this community what it is. So I just want to give you guys a shout out and my appreciation. We'll catch you guys on Monday. Hopefully you guys have a good Sunday and a good rest of your weekend. Until next time, we'll see you later. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.